Welcome to AdAmerica TV. Hi, I'm Maya Trainer. I'm one of the e-guides at AdAmerica, and we welcome our audience joining us online. We truly hope that you are doing well and staying safe amidst this outbreak. Well, anyway, for those of you who are first-timers here, hi, welcome to AdAmerica TV for the first time. AdAmerica is the U.S. Embassy's American Center and is to provide a space for young generations of Indonesia to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so you can enjoy our program from the comfort of your own home and help fund the curve of COVID-19. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment box below, and our panelists will answer them later in the seminar. Now, today we will be having a session titled Snap, Photojournalism and Making an Impact. But as per usual, before we begin, we are going to have a social media quiz. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. The question is, Fandom by Peter Lik is the most expensive photograph ever sold. How much did it sell for? A. 5.5 million US dollar. B. 6.5 million US dollar. C. 7.5 million US dollar. Or D. 8.5 million US dollar. I will repeat the question one more time. Listen carefully. Fandom by Peter Lik is the most expensive photograph ever sold. How much did it sell for? A. 5.5 million US dollar. B. 6.5 million US dollar. C. 7.5 million US dollar. Or D. 8.5 million US dollar. You can participate this quiz through our social media comment section and stay tuned till the end of this program to find out if you got the answers right. Now, before we begin, here's the special opening remarks from Michael D. Quinlan, Press Attaché, U.S. Embassy, Jakarta.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful program, Snap Photojournalism from America. I do want to welcome all of you for tuning in and taking part. Photojournalism and journalism in general is important to me, the press attaché at the U.S. Embassy, because the media is an important partner for telling the story to the world. It's a way to get truth, information, and stories out to the people that need to hear it. And the U.S. has long been a big supporter of that. Some of the earliest examples of photojournalism that has really brought changes to society and sought justice can be seen in the United States. There's a good example of a Danish-American photographer and social activist, Jacob Riis, who published a book called How the Other Half Lives, which he looked at conditions of poverty in New York, and with photos, with photography, was able to tell the story of people who couldn't tell the story themselves, and was able to bring about attention and change. And we also see examples of this in more modern times. For example, in Myanmar, when the situation in Rakhine State was difficult for people to enter, there were photographers from Reuters news agency who were in Bangladesh who were able to, with their cameras, see smoke billowing up from across the border, to see just what sort of conditions were when people couldn't get in and see for themselves. We could also look at just recently in 2019, the passage of the Caesar Act, which is named essentially for a former photographer in the Syrian military who documented some of the atrocities in that country. And with those photos, the world was really able to see some of the problems that were coming out of the regime in Syria. So photography isn't just something that you pick up a camera and have fun with. It can really lead to a lot of important changes and search for justice and equality in the world. And I think every time we pick up a camera, every time we give ourselves a chance to tell a story with that camera, with those photos, I think it's us connecting with the rest of the world in a very special way. And so thank you all for taking part in this program today. I hope you find it useful. And I also want to thank our wonderful presenters and our hosts today for taking the time to come and share their expertise. So everyone, enjoy. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Quinlan, for the opening remarks. Now, one more thing before we begin. Please don't hesitate to take a selfie, capture this moment, and share through your social media and let everyone know that you are having a great time with us here at America. And please don't forget to tag us on Instagram at ATAmerica. And now, without further ado, please welcome our moderator for today, Bapak Ignatius Haryanto, lecturer in journalism at Universitas Multimedia Nusantara.
Okay, thank you, Maya. Good day, everybody, wherever you are now. Welcome to At America. And today we will have a seminar entitled Snap, Photojournalism and Making an Impact. I already introduced by the host, and I will be moderate for this 2-hour seminar. And today we will discuss an interesting topic regarding photojournalism. Every day we look at the media and we see wonderful and meaningful photos or photo stories. From there we can see the world around us, and there are many photographers behind those wonderful photos. Sometimes these photographers even have to risk his or her own life to get those photos, especially during the conflict situation around the world. But sometimes we can smile or laugh to funny photos. Yeah, so journalism is very colorful. Other than that, many wonderful and meaningful photos are recorded in our mind to remind us about particular event in the history of human life. We still remember the image in September 2001 when the Twin Tower of the WTC were hit by two planes. And we will still remember also the image when someone in China stands still opposed to Big Tank during the Tiananmen protests back in 1989. And we in Indonesia still remember some images during the reform era in May 1998 and many more. So today we will discuss about photojournalism and how do they make impact to human life. And we have three distinguished panelists from Jakarta and also Los Angeles. And first speaker for the seminar is Arbain Rambe. I will read his short bio. Arbain Rambe is a photographer who was born in Semarang and long exists in the world of photography, former photographer of Kompas Daily in Jakarta. Arbain is an example of a journalist who masters writing and photography at the same time. He has been a photo editor at Kompas Daily and various photography competition. Have been won both in domestic and foreign events. Arbain will have 20 minutes for presentation, and Arbain, now the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Haryanto. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'll go straight to my presentation. I'll share my screen to you. Okay. Photojournalism, the history, the reason, and the future. When I'm preparing this presentation, I just find out that photography and photojournalism all came from America. When I was elected as a picture editor in Kompas Daily about 30 years ago, we use AP style book, Associated Press style book. So I think all the style from Kompas derivates from Associated Press or also etc. Okay, newspapers first came in the United Kingdom. I don't remember the years, and everybody I think don't know what the exact years newspaper first came into public. But the first newspaper came with pictures, not photos, came in America, in the United States of America, October 7th of 1973. Daily Graphic is this the first newspaper with picture in the United States, October 7, 1873. And we all maybe know these two persons, George Eastman and Thomas Alva Edison, two big inventors in the world. I will especially studying George Eastman that creates the first portable camera, Kodak Brownies. Kodak Brownies was first produced in 1900. Kodak Brownies is the first portable camera. Before that, camera is very big, and I think this invention of this portable camera will lead to journalism to make another steps. This is the first photos appears on the newspaper, also in Daily Graphic, March 4, 1880. March 4, 1880 is the first newspaper with picture, with photo, not pictures, with photo. Is in America. It's the scene of Shantytown, New York. Okay, this is the first portable camera that lead photojournalism to another step. And this is Kodachrome, the highest standard of film used in the photojournalism, the highest standard. And never replaced, until not produced anymore. Kodachrome. Silicon Valley produced silicon cells and also silicon sensors that makes digital camera possible in America. In 1990, while I was working in Kompas Daily, Kodak offers us digital camera that can use for photojournalism. The body is Nikon, but the system is Kodak. It's very strange for me. Why Kodak can create a system, but didn't make a camera? So the camera is use Nikon or Canon, you can choose, but the system is Kodak. Maybe we trace back that in the 60s and 70s. Okay, right. The first camera from outer space, 1946, is made in America. The first picture from outer space, the first picture of the Earth from the moon, the 60s, late 60s. Now, the first picture on the moon, not made by American camera, Swedish camera, Hasselblad. That's why that Kodak can create a system, but didn't make a proper camera until the journey to the moon. The camera is made in Sweden, Hasselblad. In 1997, the first digital camera Kompas used is made by Kodak, and the body is Nikon. That's very strange, yeah. Kodak made the system, but the body, you can choose whether Nikon or Canon. Kodak asks us, what body you want? Because the body connect to the lens. If you have all Nikon lenses, you can use Canon body, etc. Yeah, that's why Kodak is the invention of the digital camera that used by photojournalists. Okay. And from America, we learn how to manipulate pictures. This is pictures from the 19th century. It is Ulysse Grant, the president of the United States, Ulysse Grant on the horse. This picture is the collection of Library of Congress. But later, during the 70s, somebody found out that the pictures is a collage of some pictures. You see on the bottom, Ulysse Grant standing on a tree, and the picture of Civil War, 80 something, and then the picture of General, I forget the name, that used, and they changed the picture of the Ulysse Grant to this picture and montage it on the picture of the war. This is montage altered pictures from the 19th century. Okay, from the United States too, we learn how to make a picture when you are not allowed to make a picture. This is a death sentence of somebody in, I forget the year, but it's the camera used, a very small camera. The photographer put it on the knee and can make a picture of somebody to be on a electric chair and the headline of the daily news. Yeah, we can learn in photojournalism that when you are not allowed to take pictures, but you can make it. That's a great picture. Sometimes like that. Sometimes. This is the first pictures sent wirelessly. By telephone, by phone lines. This is the first wire photo, 1935, in Adirondack Mountains in New York. Yeah. This is the first picture that sent by wire from the telephone lines. Yeah, this 1935 in America. This is the apparatus by UPI from America to send pictures by phone cable. Just like a scanner, and then change the pictures to sounds, and on the destination, the sounds change back to pictures. from the UPI. This is the apparatus from AP, Dita's office, yeah, AP. Compass bought this in 1990. The price is about 2 Toyota Kijang at that moment. We can send pictures from only the negative by port line to other destination everywhere in the world. This is named AP Lifax. We bought it from AP, from Associated Press. Yeah. So I think I just realized that all standard, our way of thinking, our way of making pictures came from America. This is the picture from 50s. This is the camera standard of photojournalism at that moment. Graflex speed graphic. The brand is Graflex, and the type is speed graphic. Everybody used these pictures from World War I until about Korean War. Yeah, Korean War, the 50s. Graflex speed graphic. If you remember this picture by Joe Rosenthal, it's made by Graflex speed graphics too. These pictures teach us that a picture can be a propaganda. A picture can be staged. This picture is staged, not original moments. This picture is staged. But this picture have a very big impact to the world. This picture have very big impact to the World War II. Until 2 movies about this picture, letters from Iwo Jima and Flag of Our Fathers. Flag of Our Fathers. The Flag of Our Fathers. The movie came from a book with the title written by the children of these soldiers. Flag of Our Fathers and letter from Iwo Jima. This is Joe Rosenthal that made these pictures, World War II. This is Robert Capa. Robert Capa set us a standard of photojournalism to cover war. Robert Capa died in Vietnam, yeah, because of explosives, yeah. But Robert Capa give us the standard. How do we cover war? This is picture of Capa from Normandy, the landing of Normandy in French, World War II. These pictures blur image, but record a very important moment. This is a picture of Steve Ringman, winner of Pulitzer in 1986. Steve Ringman. Ringman tells us that photojournalism can be fun. Photojournalism can be something that not too serious, but cover a serious matter. Ronald Reagan and Queen Elizabeth in Boston, 1985. I will not forget it, but this is a Pulitzer winner in 1986. Everybody, I think, know these pictures, made in 1932. This picture was made by Charles Ebbets. Charles Ebbets. He was a boxer, a racer, and a photographer. Charles Ebbets created these pictures, a very eerie pictures here, about the building of a skyscraper in New York in the 30s, yeah, the 30s. But the pictures remains anonymous until the 70s, until someone find the negative that was created by Charles Ebbets. Boris Yarrow. Boris Yarrow teach us how to cover a violence, a murder. But still as good pictures and not eerie scene, yeah. Boris Yarrow create a picture, and I think my template, if I create a violence or murder, still strong. It is very strong. This is Jim Domke. Even camera bag for journalists was created by America. Jim Domke make a standard of camera bag. How a journalist need a bag for the camera. How the bag can easily used and can be moved during a very difficult situation. It's Jim Domke. Okay, this is some papers from magazines from the United States. We learn a lot how to create news. See, Sport Illustrated. During the 1990 until 1996, I was a sport journalist in Kompas Daily. How I cover tennis, how I cover NBA, I got from Sport Illustrated. Now, I think all Indonesian sport journalists have ever read Sport Illustrated. I think Sport Illustrated make a standard how we cover sports, how we make a star. That's very important. How we make a star. In photojournalism, in journalism, in sport coverage, a star is very important to make use important. A star. And sometimes a star is made, not always by his record or anything he did, but sometimes stars was made. Mike Phelps, Michael Jordan. Without journalism, I think nobody knows about Jordan. Serena Williams too. Dwayne Johnson, SmackDown, yeah, remember SmackDown. Okay, from American magazine, I learned a lot about how we cover sports, how we cover politics, how we cover everything. This cover of Times, I learned that we can manipulate the picture, manipulate in journalism to tell something that somebody love George Bush, somebody hate George Bush. Hate, smack his eyes. Love, kiss his cheek. This is a manipulated picture, of course, but this is news. And it's a cover. So I understand. But not of every manipulated picture is not allowed in journalism. This is not news. This is an opinion. This picture is an opinion. Yeah, this I learned from the Times magazine. We can manipulate even president's picture, but I don't think in Indonesia we can do this. Yeah, if we did this in Indonesia, maybe bad things can happen if we did this in Indonesia. Okay, this is the Economist picture of Obama. This is published when Obama elected as the president in 2008. After Obama elected, this is the cover of the Economist. The cover is not made at the moment Obama elected, but the pictures put from 2 years before maybe, cut the pictures and put a title, It's Time. I think it's very important in journalism, but we can use a picture to another context. We use a picture to another context. Nah, I think this is a bad example. US News used a cover with the title Dangerous Liaisons. But the pictures is not a war. This pictures was not made in a war. This pictures only a man with a gun in the front of burning tires. Tempat pembuangan sampah. This is a trash area. This picture is fake, not a war, not a war situation. Yeah, there's only an example for us to well. That's in some difficult area. Sometimes you got fake pictures. That's the lesson. Okay. Nah, back to 2015. New York Times, first page, 28th of January 2015. This is a giant step to the photojournalism in the future. At that moment, there's heavy snow in New York City, and no one photojournalist of New York Times can make new pictures. What happened? The New York Times took 9 pictures from Instagram from 9 accounts of Instagram for the first page, for the headline pictures. These 9 pictures came from 9 accounts of Instagram. That's new in photojournalism. That's new, very new. That a newspaper can use pictures from internet. 28th of January. Yeah?
Sorry, Mas. You have 3 more minutes.
Okay. How many minutes?
Thank you. 3.
Oh, 3, okay.
Yeah.
This is the example that in the future, citizen journalism is the word. Citizen journalism. Everybody can, every newspaper can use picture from everybody, everywhere, and every time. Okay. And in Indonesia, there's some example of pictures that different moments, different taste. Yeah. I choose this picture for the January edition of Kompas, January 1998 edition of Kompas Daily. But my boss told this picture is dangerous. So I changed the picture to this. I choose this, but for some reason, we changed to this picture. Michael Kamdusu from IMF. Yeah. And this, in 2004, there's some example how we place a picture of violence in the front page. This is from Indonesia, at the bomb in the Australian Embassy, 2004, if you remember. 9th of September 2004. This is in Indonesia, this is Fata Kota, this is Indopost, this is Republika, this is Koran Tempo, this is Kompas, and this is Herald Tribune. Herald Tribune used from the AP. I think why AP choose this picture? And then I just find out that this picture tells the bomb is very heavy. Look, until the 10th floor, all the glass are scattered. See, until the 10th floor. The message of the picture is that the bomb is a huge bomb. Okay, okay. I think it's all is my presentation. Maybe we can use it, another conversation in the question and answer. Back to Arianto. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Arbain. Very nice presentation. And we will go on to second speaker, Mr. Dita Alangkara. I will read his short bio. Dita Alangkara is the chief photographer at the Associated Press Jakarta Bureau and the co-founder of the SribuKata.com. He graduated from University of Gadjah Mada in mass communication degree. He has been a photojournalist for more than 15 years and has captured several historical events in Asia Pacific region. In 2012, his work were showcased in the AP Captures the World exhibition in Tokyo, Japan. He was also one of the mentors in the Shooting Home workshop in Singapore in 2013. Yeah. Mr. Dita Alangkara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mas Hari, and thank you at America for having me. Let me just start my. All right. Okay, so before we can make an impact, I think it's important for us to know where we are at the moment. 1 second, let me. Is my scene, Mas Hari?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. All good.
Okay. I see the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. It's good.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let me start with this Instagram statistics. I know it's not the most accurate way to describe where we are now. It's barely scratching the surface, but it can give us a general knowledge on what's happening right now. That on Instagram alone, there are like 1 billion plus users with 500 million, more than 500 million active users per day. And the most amazing point is that there has been 50 plus billion pictures shared on Instagram, and there are 100 million pictures uploaded every day on Instagram alone. So this is the situation where we are now. Well, now we can see that we are bombarded by tons of pictures every day, and it's only on social media, on Instagram only. Every day we see more pictures on other social media channels like Facebook or WhatsApp, or and even on our way to work, we see advertisement banners like all the way. When we check our phones, we see pop-up advertisement all the time. Everything with pictures. So it's I think it's suffice to say that we live in a very visual world at this moment, which I think is a major contributing factors why we all are photographers. Every one of us is photographers because we live in a visual world. I remember when we take pictures every day. All of us do. Like when I grew up, in our family, and I'm sure it's in many families as well, that a camera is very luxurious thing for us. And the camera, we have one camera, is a rangefinder Ricoh GX 500, and that camera is like a very sacred tool. You know, it only come out during a special moment like a birthday or maybe Idul Fitri holiday, or only certain moments. But we can see that now in a family, maybe everyone has a image making tools, which means that everyone has access to cameras and can create pictures. And that's really what's shaping us, what's shaping up our way to communicate. This is how I communicate with my wife recently. These photos are taken from our WhatsApp conversation that has been declassified for this event. So this is how she showed me which shoes, which sneakers she should go for. And being a shoe fetish myself, I do the same in these pictures here. I showed her, is this shoes any good? And these pictures in the middle is a coffee cup she recently bought, and she showed me that through pictures from WhatsApp. And also photos. We use photos also for aid memoir to help us remember, for example, this parking spot at the mall, or this is a pictures of receipt that some online from some online shop. Basically, it's showing me that, hey, this is the receipt. I have already shipped the items you bought, something like that. So this is a very common communication in WhatsApp, and we see pictures. We see tons of pictures on WhatsApp every day. All right. So that brought us to the next point. We got bombarded by millions of pictures every day, and it's basically a great days for photography because everyone has basically cameras to take pictures and they can create. But is it a great days for photojournalism? That remains question for us. At least we have lots of homework to be done, because that thousands, millions of images we see every day can create distractions from what is important and what is essential for us. This is a very interesting picture for me, taken in October 7th, 2018, in Central Sulawesi. We remember after the earthquake and liquefaction there. I joined a military helicopter to deliver aids, relief goods to people in remote villages that has been isolated by the quake. And after we landed and dropped the goods, the first thing the people do there is taking selfies with the helicopters. You know, I'm sure they rarely see helicopters in the area. And this is very interesting because, I mean, they're in difficult situation. They got isolated by the quake. They have no, they don't have food. They don't have electricity. But still, they have to take pictures to feed their social media. So. Basically, most of the pictures we take today has a lot of things to do with social media. We have to feed the beast. Our social media is a beast that's always hungry. You have to feed it every day. And basically, it could be distraction from what's real, what is hoaxes, and what is essential. It can distract us from what's important. But on the other hand, social media also gives us lots of useful information. It allows us to create more localized and personalized channel that fed us very useful information. For example, these pictures are taken from an Instagram account called Depok 24 Jam, which is basically give us information about what's happening in Depok area within recently. So it's very useful for me as a journalist to find information that's recent. Every time I heard something happening, usually the first thing I do is check Instagram or Twitter to see if it's true. And it's very easy. It can be done in very basically it can be done from my couch, from wherever. And I got instant confirmation, which I have to follow up, of course. But really, social media make my life very much more easier. And what we need to know is this information comes from basically just some random guys on the street with these smartphones, and that random people can be me or you or whoever. Basically, they're doing very basic journalism practice, which is reporting. That's what we do as a journalist. We report something. We report a news event and publish it for a wider audience. And all it's done with pictures. And it brings us to the next point, that flows of information, tons of information we receive every day. Like I said, it could be beneficial for us, but it also brings us problems as well. like what Maria Ressa said, that with all the informations, with all the flow of information we receive today, she said that it can be, we now we live with tons of information warfare that can be used for negative, whatever negative purposes. So that's why, as cliche as it sounds, that education is very important for us. It goes both ways, for journalists as well as the public. You know, the public needs to learn how to filter and to separate news from hoaxes, and to understand how journalism works, etc. That sometimes media got criticized of not reporting what some certain groups think that it needs to be published. But of course, the media cannot report unconfirmed event or some things that cannot be verified. So, and also photojournalists or journalists in general, they need a new set of skills. They need to learn in photography, in photojournalism context, that we photojournalists needs to learn more about other things than photography, because I think that the day that photojournalists rely on breaking news to live, basically, is gone. Now, as we can see in the previous slides, that breaking news now belongs to citizen journalists. They have access to news events because they are on the street. Basically, people on the street with camera now has access to news events. Any breaking news, usually the first pictures come out from breaking news, usually comes from citizen journalists now. That's why photojournalists need to upgrade their skills. They need to arm themselves with new set of skills to be a better storyteller. And luckily, now photojournalists in Indonesia have reached a new level. For me personally, that I've been a photojournalist for more than almost 20 years now, and I've seen photojournalists that have come up with a story that never been done before. Some they've been working on issues that rarely been touched before. Like, for example, this story by Albertus Wandrianto, a freelance photographer. He works on the discrimination and violence against Papuans, and also religious minorities issues, like this one that's done by Hendra Eka, a photographer from Jawa Pos. And they come up with a different way of storytelling. Approach like this, like the diptych technique, maybe when I started my journalism career, I rarely seen something like this, but now it's been done more often, and not necessarily this particular technique, but I'm talking about the way they deliver their messages, the way they tell their stories in a different way in a new ways for Indonesian context. And also issues like domestic violence. This is a story about a wife that's fighting against domestic abuses, and also LGBTQ issues. Now we see that in Indonesia, there are photojournalists that come up with more stories like this from different perspectives, which is, I think, is really progressive. And back to creating impact, like I said before, that social media can be really beneficial for us. So it can be our enemies, but it also can be our friends. Like these pictures, for example, is from Beawi Harta, a Reuters, ex-Reuters photographer. Now he's retired. That these pictures went viral a few years ago after he took these pictures and posted it on his Facebook account. These pictures went viral, and basically, this is a pictures of school students that basically have to risk their life to cross a broken bridge, a broken suspension bridge, to go to school every day, and it's been happening for years, and the government just they didn't care, or they didn't do anything. Basically, they didn't do anything to fix it. Only after these pictures went viral, then it created some pressure for the government. And within few months, the bridge was fixed. And there's another example of what I did for AP in 2014. This is photos from Benjina. A few years ago, we did a story on slavery in seafood industries in Indonesia and Thailand and a few other countries in Southeast Asia. We need to find, basically there's a fishing company in Benjina in Aru Islands region that employs illegal workers from Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, that they've been taken against their will. Some people were kidnapped and forced to work on the fishing boats. And we heard the information from an NGO that there's human rights abuses at the fishing company. And we needed to go there and find confirmation that it really happened. So I went there, and this was the first visual confirmation that there were human rights abuses at the fishing companies, that there were people were kept in jails, people who tried to escape the fishing boats, they were caught and put in jails at the company.
Sorry, Mas Dita.
Yeah.
You have 2 more minutes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
No worries.
Thank you.
Okay. These pictures I took on this with smartphone. And these pictures basically confirms that there were human rights abuses. And after we published the story, Ibu Susi Pujiastuti, the fisheries and maritime ministers back then, also create lots of pressures internally in Indonesia, and that led to the fisheries ministries took action and do some rescue operations. That that was the pictures I took was in 2014, and this is the next year, the following year, the fisheries ministry took action, and we managed to rescue, in total, on that day, we managed to rescue 300 plus fishermen. And in total, during the following months, we rescued 1,300 fishermen from the area. And they, with the cooperation from the IOM, they managed to return home to see their families again. Well, that's it basically. Let me close it with the quote from David Griffin that photography can trigger reaction, trigger response from people, from the audience, and those reaction can create pressure and eventually lead to a change. And it's been amplified by social media. That's what we need. That's our homework now. That we need to more educations for both the public and the journalists alike. Thank you very much, Mas Hari.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dika Alangkara. Now we go on to our third speaker, Mrs. Tara Pixley, PhD, is a photographer and professor with 20 years career in visual journalism. Dr. Pixley is based in Los Angeles, where she teaches journalism and media studies at Loyola Marymount University. She was a visiting night fellowship at Harvard University Newman Foundation for Journalism and was a recipient of the inaugural WordPress Photo Solutions Visual Journalism Initiative. Her writing and photography have appeared in various publications, including New York Times, Wall Street Journal, NPR, Newsweek, ProPublica, Huffington Post, Newman Report, ESPN Magazine, Canon Pro, and The Black Scholar. She is the co-founder and board member of Authority Collective, an organization dedicated to diversifying perspective in visual media. And she is currently working on a book chronicling the move to decolonize the visual journalism industry. Dr. Pixley, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Ad America. And thank you, everyone out there, for being with us today. I'm Dr. Tara Pixley. I've been a visual journalist for the last 20 years, and today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of diverse perspectives in photojournalism, and kind of walk through some of the different organizations that are working to diversify the industry all around the world, but especially to bring attention to how America has often, or Western news media, so photojournalism from America and photojournalism from Europe has often kind of capitalized on images of people all around the world, and representing them in really stereotypical ways. And so trying to think about how photojournalism can do a better job of representing people in a diversity of ways and have a very inclusive and holistic perspective. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you. So I wanted to start with these two images because these photos were, these are photos I took a long time ago, early on in my career, and it brought attention to me when I took these images and I showed them to people. People responded very positively and commented on how they didn't usually see Black people photographed laughing or playing music or doing things that you know they typically saw images of Black and brown people in chaos or tragedy or catastrophe as victims. And so I started thinking about how to emphasize joy and celebration and community in my work. And I'll talk more about my work later, but first I wanted to start by pointing out a few important things about photojournalism. So the World Press Photo Institution, which is one of the world's most respected photojournalism and news photography organizations, they award the World Press Photo Awards every year, and they're very coveted awards. So World Press Photo partnered with Reuters and then later with the University of Stirling to produce a survey surveying all of the applicants or the people, the photographers who were submitting their work for World Press Photo Awards. And then they put out a report about the state of news photography in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And what they found from those surveys is that only 15% of news photographers are female, and that 65% are from North America and from Europe. And what that means is that a majority of the images that we see, all of the photojournalism, the news photography that is circulated around the world in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, the sort of major international news organizations, it's frequently photographed by males and by men and typically Westerners. So we're missing a lot of different people's perspectives. We're missing perspectives of people from the global South. We're missing perspectives of women. And one of the things I think it's really important for us to recognize is how important photojournalism is, how much we learn about the world from photojournalism. My esteemed fellow speakers tonight, or today, it's tonight for me here in Los Angeles, did a wonderful job of laying out the history of photojournalism and how the industry has been affected by the turn to the digital and social media. And all of those things really underscore how important photojournalism is in helping us understand the world, in representing people, in teaching us and telling us what is going on around the world. So if we take photojournalism as being this really important thing that helps us understand who we are as humans and who we are as a global community, then we need to have a lot of different perspectives on that global community. One of the things I want to talk about today is Everyday Africa. It's one of the organizations that started out in 2012, and it's one of these organizations that is working to kind of decolonize and show a different kind of understanding of the world, to decolonize photojournalism. And Everyday Africa was started by Austin Merrill and Peter DeCampo. Peter DeCampo is a wonderful photographer. And they had this idea that if they could start an Instagram account where they invited photographers all over the African continent to present images on Instagram of photos of the sort of everyday life of African citizens, that people would start to see a different perspective on Africa, because we often see images of the African continent as a lot of photojournalism focuses on wars and conflicts there and diseases and other issues that people are having. And those things are very important. We do need to photograph those things. We need to understand those social and environmental problems that we have in the world. But we also need to show people laughing and dancing, being in community, being with family. We need to show the humanity of people beyond just being photographed as victims. And so that was the work that Everyday Africa was trying to do. And I want to share a few images that I really love. So these are some of the examples of the kinds of photos that Everyday Africa shares from all over the African continent. This one is from Ghana, showing musicians in the street, boxers in different parts of the different neighborhoods that we typically would see images of poor children or people starving or criminality. And this photographer is showing a different, a part of life, the everyday in this space that isn't just about, the kind of sorrow or difficulties and problems that people experience, because they have lives beyond that as well. And images like this, which seems really simple, seeing this man getting off of a bus, but some people think in different parts of the world that they don't really understand that African nations have buses, have technology. They've, for whatever reason, have believed that there is a lack of this kind of technology and access to to more westernized elements of the everyday. And so showing photos like this, even though they're very simple, and this one is beautifully composed, these kinds of images really provide a different way of understanding what it's like to be in Ghana and Nigeria. And this is one of my favorite images of a ballerina.
Hello, Tara. Tara, can you hear me? I think we have some connection problem. Okay, yeah, we will wait for Tara to join us again. But meanwhile, while we're waiting for Tara to join us, I would like to see some questions that already come into the box. There are so many questions. It's very interesting. I would choose some question. It's all from YouTube. There is one from Hafid. Hafid asks question. I often see many similarities between photos taken by journalists and those who are not taken by journalists. Then can we also call the photos taken by ordinary photographer as a journalistic photos? Can Arba'in or Dita would like to comment on that? Oh, Tara is already come back. Tara, can you hear us? Okay, while we're waiting for Tara, yeah.
I'm having a lot of Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You want to continue your presentation, please?
Yes, I can certainly try. My apologies, having some Wi-Fi
that's
issues.
Okay. That's okay. Always a problem like that. Yeah, please.
So I was moving into, can you see this in here?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I was about to move into Women Photograph, which is another one of these organizations that is trying to change how we see, about not just trying to change how we see different countries and different people and communities around the world, but also trying to change who is behind the camera. So really trying to showcase women and photographers from Latin America, from Southeast Asia, from Africa, from different parts of the world than we often see, as I showed in that statistic that 65% of news photographers are coming from America and Canada and Europe. So I would say that many people say that they're a human first and a photographer second. That's something that we hear quite a bit. I think that's very important and definitely true for me. But also I wanted to be a photographer who showed how human we all are, not in the ways in which we harm one another or destroy things, but in the ways in which we're in community and how we connect and build and care. And that's what I tend to turn my lens toward. And that's often the stories that I'm hired to tell. And these organizations, the people, the photographers who are working with Women Photograph, and also Diversify Photo is another organization working to bring more people into photojournalism and editorial photography. Diversify Photo is specifically for photographers of color. Authority Collective is another organization. And this is the organization that I work very closely with, and I'm on the board of. I'm one of the co-founders. All of these, along with Everyday Africa, and it's extended into a project called Everyday Projects. All of these organizations are trying to make it possible for us to see different kinds of images and people, and to make sure that different kinds of people are behind the lens, people who are really genuinely caring about the people that they photograph and who are also bringing a different perspective. to our images. And this is a quote that I really love that I apply in my own work. Not only will I stare, I want my look to change reality. That's from a scholar of visual media, Bell Hooks. And what I think this is saying is that photojournalists, we have an opportunity to change how people think about the world. We have an opportunity to change what people see and how they think about one another, how they think about people they've never met in different countries, in different neighborhoods, in different communities. So now I'm going to show a little bit of my work. And I think that I've pulled some images that I hope show how I care about photographing joy and community in general, but especially among people of color and from the global South. And that's me trying to bring into the conversation in news photography images that we often haven't seen historically. This is an image I photographed for the New York Times. And I'm a freelancer, so I do quite a bit of assignment work where I just get a call to go and photograph. Can be anything. Sometimes they're portraits. Sometimes it's spending an afternoon or morning with a family like this one. And one of the things I love about this image is we don't often see photos of dads and their children. We often see mothers as the ones with their kids. And so I love this photo for this playful moment. And I've also been photographing quite a bit of the recent Black Lives Matter protests here in Los Angeles. And this is an image from one of those protests. Something that I find really important is talking to the people that you are photographing, engaging with them to make sure they understand who you are as a photographer, who you're photographing for, where their images might end up. Not all photojournalists follow that practice, but I think it's very important for us to honor the people that we're photographing. Photojournalism is not just about telling stories to an audience. It's about caring and connecting with the people that you photograph and recognizing that shared humanity between you and them and between them and the audience, and trying to pull all of that together in your images. And this is a portrait of Melina Abdullah, who's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter at her home here in Los Angeles. These were photographed for the Wall Street Journal and for Los Angeles Magazine. And this is another image that this is the kind of photo that I tend to gravitate towards, where it's quiet moments that are showcasing or highlighting rather an aspect of people of color that we don't typically see, or people from Black and Brown communities, Black and Brown individuals, and trying to depict them in ways that really underscore their humanity and their power and things like that. So this photograph of a Black American man on a horse we rarely see images of Black men on horses. We have this kind of idea of the cowboy, and the cowboy is always a white male. And so trying to reimagine what that might be or what that could be. And this is another photograph on assignment for the Wall Street Journal. And this is a LGBTQ individual who was at the All Black Lives Matter protest and celebration here in Los Angeles. And I'm drawn to images like this, again, that are kind of depicting people from marginalized communities in different ways. So I had the privilege of photographing in Tijuana in 2018 when the migrant caravan, or a very large migrant caravan, one of many, came to the border from Central America. And I went there in part I was photographing with the Contratiempo, which is a dance company based out of Los Angeles. And this dance company was going to try and bring what they called radical joy to the migrants who were in limbo, waiting to see if they'd be able to seek asylum in America. And they were just kind of waiting and being held in a very large kind of shelter without a lot of resources. So there were over 1,000 people being held at a shelter together as they waited to get entrance to America. And these dancers, this dance company, they wanted to come and lead dance circles, and they were bringing many things. They were bringing money and food and clothing and bedding and all of these things, but they also wanted to bring a sense of community and connection to the migrants. And so I started photographing that, and it ended up becoming a project that I have continued. I actually I'm very grateful for the World Press Photo Solutions Visual Journalism Initiative. They gave me a grant to fund this long-term project to document the efforts of groups like Contratiempo and other advocates and activists who are working together to help asylees and migrants. And that project really started with this day when I went to photograph this dance company advocating for different, sorry, I apologize for background noise. They're advocating for different ways of connecting and communicating with the migrants beyond just bringing money and food. They wanted to bring something else. And it really worked. You could see, when I talked to the people, dancing with the dancers, engaging with the aerial yoga, you can see here, they said no one had ever done this for them in this way. No one had come there to make them laugh, to make them feel human and connected. And it doesn't solve the immense problems that force their migration, and it does not get them into the country where they seek asylum, but it is a step towards something important, something that I believe deserves to be documented as well. So other images of that particular day led to me photographing Casa de Luz, a shelter that caters to migrants from the LGBT community, pictured here, as they face off against the American bureaucracy and policies trying to seek asylum across the border. This project I would call a solutions journalism story because it's emphasizing how people respond to problems rather than purely highlighting the problem itself. And solutions journalism is a kind of new approach that journalists around the world are starting to do. And I've been thinking a lot about what it means to have a solutions photojournalism approach, where you are trying to highlight how people are working to fix something, which also includes you talking about the problem or showing the problem in your images, but you're also showing how people are working together to affect change, to produce solutions to that particular problem. And these are images of children at Casa de Luz, the shelter in Tijuana. They're in these photos, they're celebrating the Christmas season with the posada. This is from December of last year. And this is one of the activists and advocates who works with the asylum seekers, the asylees and migrants, to try and help them as they go through the process of seeking asylum. And one of the things that's really wonderful about this shelter, and that also drew me to photograph it, is that it caters to women with children who were migrating alone, without assistance from other people outside of their family, and also to people in the gay and trans community. And so they're living together, helping one another, pooling their resources, feeding one another. And I tried to capture that in these images and showcase this space where people are really working to affect change together. And I think that the reason why I chose to show this series of images is that it speaks to what I feel is important about photojournalism. Thinking critically about how the kinds of images we make can either upend or reproduce racist or imperialistic ideas. I think about that constantly when I'm photographing, and I think it's very important for people who are interested in photojournalism, who are attempting to become a photojournalist, to continue to think critically about your photos. What are your images saying? What messages are they conveying? And how are you helping people who see your photos to understand the world in a different light, to have a very diverse understanding, or to see a diversity of perspectives and to have a very holistic understanding of the issues that you're photographing and the people that you're photographing, and connecting them again to that humanity, this thing I return to a lot. So this is, that is the end of my talk.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Very nice presentation. Now I will invite every panelist to ask for other speakers. If you have comments or question to other speaker, please do so. Arbain, do you have any question to Dita or Tara?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Mr. Dita, do you have any questions to Tara or Arbain?
Maybe to Tara, maybe not really a question. I just gonna say something that we have, with this Black Lives Matter protest in the States. It's for us in Indonesia. It seems so far away. We know that there's discrimination against Black people, blah, 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 etc. And we know that it's a bad thing. But actually it happens here too, that we also stigmatize some certain people in Indonesia. And basically we are against racism in America, but we don't really realize that we're doing this as well here. I wonder if we can develop something to menyamakan apa sih Mas Hari? To have the same understanding about what racism is, about what discrimination is, because we clearly have different understanding about that between American people and Indonesians.
Okay, Tara. Please. Yeah.
So you're going in and out a little bit there, unfortunately, but I
know.
I will try to respond. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that because race is such a complex thing, it doesn't make sense in the same way in every different country. And
True.
So the way that race is understood in America, the way that race is understood in Brazil and Colombia, Indonesia, Korea, it's very different. And I think it can be hard to translate that across different cultural contexts, different communities and different languages. But I think what matters is that whether it's regardless, all people deserve to be treated like humans. All people deserve not to be criminalized and killed by the state. And that's an issue that we have all over the place, in many different nations in the world. It might take a different shape. It might not be around race. It might be around ethnicity or religion. But I think that is at its core the thing that we need to understand and recognize just as a global community, is that injustice of any kind against any group can't be tolerated and must be brought to light and photographed, documented, and made to and brought to justice, essentially.
Okay, Tara, do you want to have question to Arbain or to Dita?
Dita, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, you were making such great points about how photographers use social media. Can you talk a little bit about, do you think that social media has made it easier for people to connect when you're seeing images of, I can see photos of students and families in Indonesia on Instagram now, on YouTube, and you can see images of Black Lives Matter protesters, and it's not just it's not just what we see in the news media. Now we have the ability to see whatever citizens post all around the world. Do you think that that has had an effect on the way that people understand people outside of their countries?
Absolutely, yeah. Social media connects us globally. I mean, we now I follow Everyday Africa. Now I can see what's happening there, how people do their life there, go around their life, and basically the most important thing is the social media gives us multiple perspectives on what is happening. Like in this, just like you said, I mean, now we don't only see what's happening in the States in this context, the Black Lives Matter protest, from mainstream media channel, but we also can see those from different perspectives, from the people on the ground, like real people who posted in their Instagram account and then got reposted by someone and then reposted by some bigger account, maybe mainstream media channel, and eventually it reached me here in Jakarta, Indonesia. It gives us a lot more perspectives now, and I think it comes down to us, what we gonna do about it. I mean, it's just gonna. Are we gonna learn something from it, or are we just gonna swipe up and go to the next photos? I mean, it really has something to do with how we build our perspective. You know, that's why I always emphasize on that all of us, not only photojournalists, but all of us need, especially I'm talking from Indonesian perspective, that we need to learn a lot about racism, about discrimination, about anything that to enrich our perspective, to enrich our because you know, we react on something. It really depends on the references we have in our brain, and if we know more, we have more references to act upon something, and that's why especially talking about photojournalism in Indonesia, the photojournalist needs to learn a lot more, because eventually we need to open more horizons. We need that lots of things happens, and there are a lot of things we can learn from what's happening in the world. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on to see some questions from the audience. I think there's already like 17 people from the audience asking question. I will choose some of them. It's all from YouTube. Yeah. First question come from Hafid. Hafid asks question. I often see that many similarities between photos taken by journalists and those not taken by journalists. Then can we also call the photos taken by ordinary photographer as a journalistic photos? That's the first question. The second one come from Dia Nadifa. I want to ask about how can people who see journalistic photo work understand exactly the meaning of the photo. Because sometimes people who not understand about photojournalistic can be confused. Yeah. And the third question, I limited to third question for this first session. How do you interpret this photojournalist? Is it just a photo, or is it just something that have meaning to you? Okay, I invite probably Arbain first to respond to those questions, please.
Yeah, thank you. Photojournalism is a product of journalism, but not always made by photojournalists. A product of photojournalism could be understood by everybody. If the pictures only understandable only by certain people, it's failed. The picture is failed. In Indonesia, we said nggak berbicara, ya. So everybody can make photojournalism, can do photojournalism, can make a photo for journalism purpose. Now we call it citizen journalism. I think there's just no difference between the pictures that made by photojournalists or by common people. All same. The product is photojournalism, can be made by everybody. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Mr. Dita Alangkara. Would you like to respond? Some of the
I agree with Bang Arbain that everyone can do photojournalism now. Everyone has access to news event and also a media. They have their own media. But I think what makes photojournalism and not photojournalism different is that photojournalism has a purpose. It has to serve that purpose, and it can't be done by just everyone. That purpose needs it has to serve some purpose to be able to be called journalism, and it has to report. It has to be published in the media, and of course, if we talk about journalism, it has to be. It will involve some verification and also certain steps in journalism. I'd like to go to the second question, Mas Hari.
Yeah. Second question is, how can people who see journalistic photo work understand exactly the meaning of the photo? Yeah.
That's why we have caption in photojournalism. I mean, that's that's why caption is called journalism part of photojournalism. Is that's how photojournalism can be kept to its track. You know, that people don't have different interpretation on what a picture is all about. That's why we put caption in it. I think that's pretty much that can keep people from having different interpretation about photojournalism. I think that's it from me.
Okay, Tara, do you want to add something?
Yeah, that's absolutely true that captions are such an integral part, such an important part of photojournalism. And I think that we don't always pay as much attention to how important the captions are and how much photojournalists need to also write, because to be a photojournalist, it's part photographer and part journalist. So while you're using your camera to document, you're also expected to adhere to these particular ethics of journalism and to write alongside your images and put your writing and your photos in conversation, because it isn't always clear what is happening in a photo, and you can get one impression from looking at an image, whereas you might need quite a bit more information to truly understand what's going on. So I think that communicating a clear message requires that photojournalists become very good at writing about what's happening, and also to take good notes when you're out in the field and you're photographing. You talk to people, you get names, you ask them about themselves, you can get quotes, all of those things when put together with photos, make photos stronger and more compelling and more interesting. So that, I think, is really important in conveying meaning with your images.
Okay. Yeah. We will go on to next question. This question come from Verla Putri. She asks, is manipulation is manipulated accepted in photojournalism? In what condition the manipulation can be used for the photojournalism? And then also there is some question from Vika. Vika asking, I want to ask, how does a photojournalist explain a story from the pictures? Yeah. And the sixth question, is expressing political views on social media justified for journalists? Since we have a lot of picks and pro and cons about this, yeah, how do you respond to this? Okay. Who wants to go first? Arbain again?
Okay, me.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask about manipulation.
Yeah.
It's always a question. I got a lot of questions about this, about manipulation. For your information, when I was a picture editor in Kompas Daily, all the pictures that appears in Kompas coming from Photoshops. You can underline that. Yeah. Every picture that appears on Kompas Daily is by Photoshops. Why? Photoshop is maybe a software people always say about manipulation. Manipulation has a lot of phases. Just like we make up ourselves. Makeups can be only washing our face or can be plastic surgery. Yeah, from just washing until plastic surgery. That's a kind of makeups. That's the range of manipulation also. In Kompas Daily, we use software like Photoshop to adjust everything to be perfect. The composition, we crop it. If the picture is not lean, we can make it square and lean. If the color is not correct, we correct the color. Sometimes the camera is already old and the color is not perfect. We perfect the color by the software. So manipulation has a lot of phases. Which kind of manipulation is allowed? That's a very difficult question, because not too easy to manipulate pictures, because now everybody take pictures, not easy to manipulate. Then, for the information, manipulation in photojournalism is not only about the pictures. We can manipulate on the text. Just like this example. During the feast month, Ramadan, nobody eats, right? But somebody placed a picture of our president maybe while eating. The manipulation is only the context. Everybody thinks that the president eating during the feast month. But that's not. We do not do Photoshops for the pictures, but we change the context. Manipulations are always a problem in photojournalism, but how far is the manipulation? That's the question. If we just correct the color, we correct the composition, just like that is common. Even maybe 100 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago in Indonesia, manipulation is always to take the picture to the best appearance. Yeah, but if we manipulate to make the different context, that's different story. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Mas Dita, please.
Yeah, I think Bang Arbain has explained very thoroughly about manipulation. In one common understanding, at least between many news outlets, is that what is allowed to be done in Photoshop usually is what can be done in the darkroom, like dodging and burning to certain level is allowed to be done. But basically the principle is less you do is the better. The less you do in Photoshop is the better in context of photojournalism, in the context of manipulation. So because as little things we do in Photoshop, it can be called manipulation. So if you basically, if we always go back to that principle, the less you do is the better. That I think that's pretty much it. That's basically the golden rule of Photoshop. And the second, what is the second question again? Second and third question, Mas Hari?
Second question is, wait, yeah, how does a photojournalist explain a story from the pictures?
Wow. That's a very broad question.
Yeah, very broad.
A very broad answer.
But I think it's related to caption, I think.
Yes. There are many ways photojournalists can tell stories. If we talk about photo stories, there are many different techniques. Like what I showed in my presentation, we have the diptych, or we have. There's so many ways to tell stories, but a good caption is one of the techniques. But what I'd like to underline is that to be able to tell stories well, that what photojournalists need to do is know the story. I think that's the basic of storytelling. That we have to know what the story is. We have to know all the elements of the story, and then we can start to do the storytelling. We have to really understand what the issues, what the backgrounds, whatever, to be able to tell the stories well. So that I think that's the first thing that a photojournalist need to learn about certain issues before they try to tell the stories to the public.
Okay. Tara, do you want to add something?
Yeah.
Probably related to political views?
I'd love to add to the conversation on photo manipulation, because this is a big issue in photojournalism. It keeps coming up again and again because professional photojournalists, and this is a small number, I would say that maybe less than 1% of photojournalists get caught manipulating. And when they do, it's a very big deal, because it's already so difficult these days to maintain public trust in journalism more broadly. So when photojournalists manipulate their images, when they use Photoshop, or they state information incorrectly in the captions, and as you were pointing out, that there are many different ways to manipulate your photos. So when photojournalists do things like that, then it just limits public trust. It eats away at public trust, and it eats away at the integrity of the profession. And if the public can't trust that our images are true and that the information we're presenting is true, what is the point of our job, right? It's so not only is it an ethical issue within photojournalism that we are not to manipulate our imagery, but it's really an important aspect of the job to be as honest as you can possibly be in every way, and to convey issues. Sometimes as a photographer, a freelance photographer, things happen in the field that are difficult to explain in captions, or there are times when I know that that I need to give more context about what happened, or there are some images that you might take that aren't really portraying the story accurately. For example, this is something that's come up a lot with the recent protests, is most protests that are happening are peaceful. There aren't fires and bricks being thrown and fights and violence and things like that at a majority of the protests. And yet the images that you see published highlight violence and make it seem as though everything is violent. And if you're a photographer and you spend 5 hours photographing protests, and the first 4.5 hours are totally peaceful, and you photograph all of that peaceful protest, and then the last 30 minutes a fight breaks out and you photograph that, you turn in all of those images without context to a photo editor, they're probably going to publish the images of the fight. And that isn't the reality of what happened there. And that can happen in a lot of different instances. So it's not just about the, manipulating the photo digitally after the fact. That's a complete no. But it's also thinking about these other ways in which, like Arvan was saying, that we change the meaning, that we change the overarching understanding that people get from the photos and how that manipulates our knowledge about the event. So it's really important as a photojournalist to write very thorough and clear captions, to never manipulate digitally what's happening in your photos, and to also think really critically and thoughtfully about how you're presenting the story, which goes to the second question. How do you tell stories in your images? Well, you do it very carefully by paying attention to what's happening, by bringing in a lot of different elements, and including many different sides to whatever it is you're photographing. Whether you're doing portraits or you're photographing an event, you want to be as thorough as you can, and also again provide that context with the writing that accompanies the images.
Tara, do you want to comment about political expression through photos or social media by photojournalists? Do you want to comment on that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Political.
Yeah. Is it photojournalist allowed to express his or her political views on social media or through their photos?
Well, that's a very complicated question, because it depends on what you consider as political, right? And in America, we have this very big problem where it's a two-party democratic government. And in this two-party system, now it's become very, very stratified. And people are turning things that shouldn't be political into a political issue because, Republicans think this and Democrats think this, and that's oversimplifying a lot of things. It shouldn't be a political issue whether or not people should be allowed to be shot by cops. That's not a political issue. That's a human rights issue. And it shouldn't be a political issue whether or not people should have access to healthcare and be fed, right? That's a human rights issue. And so now that we've turned so many things into political issues, if I, as a photojournalist, if I say on social media that, I think that people deserve to have access to quality healthcare, that now people will say, well, you're a liberal and you're a bad journalist because you're espousing liberal views. But I wouldn't say that because I'm part of one political party or another. That's not political to me. That is human rights. And I think it also is it's a weird space because as photojournalists, a lot of the reason why we do this work is to bring attention to human and civil rights issues. So why do we think when we're going and photographing, people who are starving, people who are experiencing police brutality, and we're photographing those things and saying, this is an important issue that people should know about, and we're going to publish this information in news media, but then I can't say as a photojournalist that I think people deserve to be fed and have access to healthcare and not be killed by police. That doesn't make sense. Again, it's about, I think that you shouldn't be, as a photojournalist, you shouldn't be stating actual political views. Like I would never go online and publicly state things about how I think people should vote or things like that. I would just talk about how people should treat each other and what I think it means to be a good human and a good citizen to one another. And I don't think that should be deemed political, although some people would. And those differences matter, I feel, when you're trying to be an ethical photojournalist, but also a good fellow citizen.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the azan in my background. I will continue, and because we only have some limited time, so I will select some of the question. There is two question, I think is the same, relating to how photographers portray the accident. Yeah, what things that needs to be taken care while you are portraying some accident. Yeah, and also how about how to censor some bizarre photos, things like that. Okay, please, Arbain, do you want to answer?
Always interesting to talk about ethics. I think there's no limitation, exact limitation in ethics matters. Like we are covering a very big accident, a lot of blood, a lot of people's body scattered all over the place. There's no limitation. For a photographer, take as many pictures you can for photographers. But that's different for the editors. The editors must select which picture is proper. The key is proper. Yeah, proper, which will be connected to ethics or law. Yeah, the editor will choose which picture is proper. Maybe less blood or less violence in the pictures. Yeah, like in Compass in 1998, as editor, the picture of almost 300 bodies from the supermarket Jogja in Klender scattered on the floor on a very big room. I chose the pictures that not any single body parts took place. So when the pictures only contain all black bags, but the color of the blood still appears on some spots. What did I do? I made the pictures black and white. That's my ethic decision. Ethics do not have a certain rule. Do not this, do not this, do not this, yeah. But you have your common sense to judge. If your pictures is not polite enough, this your pictures is not good enough in Indonesia, especially. And ethics, that's about the feelings of the reader. I think that's the answer.
Okay, Mas Dito, do you want to add?
Yeah, pretty much the same with what Bang Arbain says, that it comes back to our logic and our common sense, that what is good to be published and what is not. But maybe Tara could say something about this later on, that we have different values. Like maybe Kompas wouldn't publish someone wearing bikini on the beach, maybe, but it's okay somewhere else in some other countries. So again, it come back to our common sense. Pertanyaan kedua apa, Mas? The second question, I think.
Second question. I think that's it. Yeah, the last question. There is a question from Rido.
Oh yeah, the bizarre stuff.
Yeah,
what is
the bizarre. Yeah, how do you censor or manipulate bizarre photos, things like that?
I'm not sure what bizarre means, but
from accident probably.
So basically the same question as the first
same
one.
question.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it comes back to our common sense. Would you like to see blood when you're having breakfast and you're reading your newspapers? Yeah, it's sometimes it's just as easy as that, but sometimes there are bigger issues that need to be considered, like AP recently published a picture of the bodies of an immigrant with his young son has been drawn in what river is that, Tara? Rio Grande, yes. We normally don't publish dead bodies like that, but in this particular case, AP thinks that it needs to be published because there are bigger messages about the complexities of the issues like human rights and so many things. So sometimes we need also to consider bigger issues as well. Well, I think that's it. But in general, it always come back to our common sense.
Okay, thank you, Dita. Yeah, there is a last question. I think it's for Tara. Yeah, this question come from Rido. He asks, while Tara is working for some pictures of color people about joy and stuff, what kind of response would you like to receive from your audience, and how important it is to see the different perspective through pictures? Please, Tara.
So let me just restate that to make sure I understand the question. So what response to receive from my audiences who are looking at images of people of color?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for your question. I hope that my images help people see Black and brown people differently than they've seen before. I don't know that I necessarily desire a particular response, but I hope that it changes our kind of overall, what we think is possible for Black and brown people. Because the history of photography has primarily focused on highlighting white and Western people as the heroes of the global story, and highlighting or casting, Black and brown and non-Western people as the victims of the global story. And I don't think that that's true. I think that we all at different times are victims and heroes and everyday people. There are so many different stories that go untold because they don't fit into that narrative. And so I just want to make images that are true. I just want to tell true stories that show the expanse of everyday lives of all people. I don't only photograph Black and brown people. I just photograph all people as truly and completely as I can. And that's what I hope that people get out of my images, and what I hope that our audiences and the public gets out of all photojournalism. I want all photojournalism to reflect true stories that are expansive and complete and holistic. I say that word all the time, but I think it's really important to tell a whole story, not just one part of the story. And if we want to add to that visual narrative about the world, about who gets to be the hero of the story and who gets to be the victim, then we have to think about how we're photographing everyone. And if we're playing into those, those kinds of those ways of thinking about particular people and particular communities, particular nations. So that's what I hope that people are getting out of my images, is a more true and complete story.
Masih di mute.
Masih mute.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we already hear three speakers talking about photojournalism from each perspective. I think we already come to an end to our seminar. Let me just wrap up some points that we already discussed today. I think from Arba'in, we already hear that Indonesian photographer have some difficulties while portraying or they have to be very careful in portraying violence, conflict, and sometimes we have to think about ethical issues while presenting some pictures. And from Mas Dita Alangkara, he emphasized about how social media also collaborate with journalism. It's very interesting when he mentions that breaking news belong to citizen journalism, not to mainstream media. But sometimes still photographers need to clarify to make context of the photos come from the citizen journalists. And from Tara Pixley, we learn more about how diverse perspective can be presented through photography. And I think diversity is very important from the photography, and I think it is also important when Dr. Pixley mentioned about solution photojournalism. When photojournalism is not always create problems, but also come with a solution. Yeah, I think we have a very lively and very interesting discussion today. And yeah, since we are not in the same room, why don't we give some online applause to all these three panelists. I thank you at America for inviting four of us for discussion today, and I will give back the floors to at America. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right, thank you so much, Pak Hari and the rest of our speakers. That was a very informative session. We hope to see you again in our next event. Now, the rest of you, please don't go anywhere, because earlier in this event, I asked you guys, Phantom by Peter Lik is the most expensive photograph ever sold. How much did it sell for? And the right answer is B, 6.5 million US dollar. And our winner is Ida K from YouTube. Congratulations, Ida. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Easy. You can go to our website at www.atamerica.or.id, click Create an Event, and collaborate with us. All proposals coming to us will be reviewed, and your event might be featured here soon. And while you're on our website, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletters for weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. Alright everybody, I think that wraps up this episode. It has been really fun, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye for now. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at ATAmerica for event updates, fun content, and so much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Alright, thank you so much everybody for tuning in. Have a great weekend everybody. Bye-bye.